Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to the fourth and the screening today, Journey of Love. Hope everyone's happy to be here together on Saturday afternoon. And before we actually start, I would like to welcome also the audience on Facebook Live of the fourth. And today's program is just that we're gonna start first with the reading of the poem from Maìyafuìnor, and then we're gonna go to the screening, and then we go to the talk. So yeah, let's start with the poem in Rohingya language. It's probably gonna be the first time, or it's not gonna be any kind of frequent occasions that we're gonna get to hear someone reading out loud the poem in Rohingya language. So yes, please welcome Yasmin here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It's so nice to see all of your faces. I am going to read it and explain it in English. I might not be as prepared to speak in Thai on what it means, but I will help you later on. I'll send it to you all. The poem is by, not myself, but by Miss Zat M. And I love this poem just because it speaks so much to the yearning of home that is shared among all of our community members. And the language, I will speak in Rohingya language first, and then I'll explain in English. Mon hander tolaboli, which means my heart is crying for you. Zodi dori tonnam furai zagoi dunya baganota se ful doriata se fani toresara tai no fari o ashundori armon hander tolaboli armon hander tolaboli, which means if I get to catch you or catch your name once again, the rest of the world would not matter if it crumbles, if it goes away. There's flowers in the garden, in the ocean, there's water. But for you, if I don't have you, I can't live. And, the poet says, my beautiful, my beloved, my heart is yearning for you and my heart is crying for you. And this is not about a lover. This is about this person talking and yearning of home in Arakan, because this person is now displaced in the camps in Bangladesh. That's it. Thank you so much.
I think now we can just go directly to the screening. I'll introduce myself later before the talk, no worries. And then I'll introduce everyone probably before the talk, but not to waste the time because this is the main program and stuff for today. So let's just watch all together. People here and also people on Facebook Live. Journey of Love, a story of sisterhood, bravery, and community care in exile. Okay, let's watch all together.
Rohingya in Indonesia is quite a blind spot for the advocacy realm. And so we, 5 women, including myself, went to Aceh to visit the Rohingya refugee camp and have some meetings with Aceh stakeholders.
I was very excited to reconnect with these amazing women that I was able to connect with via social media. Meeting people face to face is completely different to social media. We were able to bond over our identities as Rohingya. We were able to speak about our culture, our history, and how I felt was emotional, mixed of emotions, but I also felt a sense of hope because I look around the other sisters and I know each of us have gone through displacement, we've gone through violence throughout our journeys as refugees.
So at times like this, when we are working for the plights of our community, it is very important for us to be connected with other activists in Rohingya diaspora, as well as the Rohingya from within, inside the country, from different parts of the world. So I was really excited that, oh, this is happening finally into reality.
So when we got to Aceh, it was very busy. We did a bit of crowdfunding, personal crowdfunding back at home, back in Australia, America, Canada. We managed to raise some funds through our own family and friends. We connected with organizations that work on the grounds in Aceh and asked them what the needs were.
Right now we're actually planning and preparing in the background of the list of the places we're going to go. We've identified some of the gaps and needs that Rohingya refugees have in Aceh. So there are a lot of things that we still need to pick up, but wish us luck, and we're hoping to get all of those delivered tomorrow.
As our community, we don't really go visit people empty-handed. We need to take care of our brothers and sisters. And we realized we could do a lot of good for 147 people who are currently stuck in the camp. And so we went right away around 8 p.m. because that was right after Maghrib, which is when the stores reopened. And we went straight all the way to almost 1 a.m. So there are a lot more that we are hoping to do, especially getting supplies for the children. We've had a really, really late night at that point, and we were, having to wake up really early to ensure that we get to spend as much time as possible in the camp. So that was a bit of an internal struggle for all of us. We were all quite sleepy, but we were all very fueled by the fact that we're going to see our brothers and sisters.
I'm not a person of usually wake up early or go somewhere or mostly speak up publicly. So for me, it was kind of it was not something that I did it, and it was I feel like it was really a great opportunity that I get to do that. And after meeting Yasmin and Aziza and Hafsha, it was really eye-opening. I haven't seen any Rohingya women like that who were working for a community, and they know what they're doing.
So when I first met Yasmin and Nur Aziza and Hafsar, I was a bit nervous. I was like, am I gonna fit in? Am I gonna be able to meet their standards? Am I gonna be able to do well?
We realized, along the way, there's a reason why God brought, our people here to Aceh. The landscape, the mountains, everything looked just like Arakan.
And that feeling on the way was, it's really hard to describe. As soon as the van arrived inside UNHCR, inside the camp, I just had tears coming out of my face because I heard the children's voices, I heard our language spoken, I heard the children saying, oh, we're so excited, they're bringing things for us, we're so excited to meet some of our sisters.
When I first walked in, I see kids running around there, and it really made me emotional, seeing them. They're all I don't know. And then when I went up to them and I started talking to them, they're like, are you Rohingya? Are you fully Rohingya? I'm like, yes, I am fully Rohingya.
So what we started out to do was we wanted to have a children's section where we purely talked to the children. So there were moments where we sat there and listened to them perform for us. And there were also moments that we read children's story, my book, very specifically, that I wrote for the children. I was hoping that it would be some sort of a love letter for them to feel connected to their culture. We also had a specific session in mind that we wanted to do with women, where there would be no camera, there would be nobody else from the outside, joining us, listening into the conversation. We spent, I think, nearly 3 hours with them, and they were able to tell us about a lot of the worries and the issues that they faced, especially in family separation, and a lot of the fears that they have living in the camp, and why they were there in the first place, which was not really up to their choice. The one thing that we wanted to succeed in this mission was that we connect with the people there and have this direct contact, so that our people feel like they're also not forgotten.
It was it was shocking for them to see actual Rohingya coming, to see them. And for me, the most heart-touching was more like when they're all kids were, no matter how hardship they went through, they're doing what they need to do. For me, at this time, hearing from them, their story, their struggles, it was different. At that moment, I really missed my mom and dad, and I was like, I cannot really imagine what they have been through. So yeah.
And it was as I heard the stories about how, the people, about how the refugees, they were saying that, I was separated by family. Especially the women, they said that, I was separated, from my husband. And, some of the children there, they don't even have their parents, Some of the children there are orphans. So it really made me homesick, and it really made me reflect on, my appreciation for my family.
I think it was very, very mixed emotion. On the one hand, I was very, very happy to be able to see my people. On the other hand, I still feel quite saddened that our people continue to have to be on the move in order to flee violence, in order to sort of find solace and, a better future that they've been seeking for their family and their children.
It was two things. The first thing was something I heard throughout. It was with the women, the men, and the children as well. And it was, I've never seen peace in my life, and I don't even know what that means, and I don't even know what that looks like. And that is something that I heard. That was a common language that was used by many of the Rohingya. And that made me really, really, really push myself to do more for my community, because these people deserve to see peace in their life. They, just like everyone, they have children, they have a family, and they also want to live a normal life. And the second thing is how much the mothers and the fathers were striving for their children to receive education. For a lot of us that receive education, we go to school and it becomes normal. But for the Rohingya refugees in camp, education is more than just going to a classroom. It's something that's going to change their lives and also rebuild their characters, and also rebuild their own family and their own communities.
So one of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that the Rohingya refugees, they're not complaining about having to be there. They're very grateful to be able to seek refuge somewhere else. One thing that really stood out to me was about how much, they focus on the children. The adults, they're it's not really for us. We care more about the children, about how they're gonna develop, about especially their education.
It wasn't too different in a way, because I used to work in this human rights space with other INGO like UNHCR and refugee space in the past as well. I do know how things work, but I was a little bit sad for my communities, even if they have all this protection and they now don't have to worry about their safety, but they're still having this restraint from going out from the camp. And the children from the camps are deprived from their education. They cannot have access to education, because one of the significant things that we repeatedly hear from our community is that we would like our children and younger people to have access to education. They are our hope for our future. They are the one who will bring our freedom and liberation for us one day and to rebuild our communities.
And so current batch of people are at 147 people. 80 of them are children, and young children at that. Only 10 children so far have the permission to go to school. However, that permission is not without strings attached. They can go to school as long as the security system, the security and the police allow them to go. And some days that doesn't happen. Just as we went to visit the camp, 10 of those children were just barred from actually going to school.
So one thing that has really changed in this trip for me, visiting people in the camps, is that I used to think, like I would help Rohingya, but in my zone, being in my comfort zone around where I'm living at. But coming here out of my zone, it really made me realize that this is what I actually really want to do. Help my community and help the children to get access, at least whatever I can do, at least I'm helping them. Not just, just being in my comfort zone there and helping the Rohingya there, but I have to actually help the Rohingya outside of that too. So that one thing that made me realize. Another thing is that how my mom and dad went through, I couldn't help them. I was not there to help them, what they have been through. My dad losing his family, my mom losing her brother. So I wasn't there to help them, but actually I can be there for them. I can be for those kids who have lost their parents. I can be there for those girls who have separated from their husband.
The day had been grueling. By the end of it, we were able to talk to the children again and ask them what they needed without the adults. And I think that was the highlight of my day, where we were able to actually ask them, what do you need? What are the things that you hope for? And all of them wanted supplies for school. And I think in some ways, I really, really want to take them with me. It's just not something that we can do, but with their family, with their parents, perhaps we can find ways to make the life in the camp a bit easier.
So there was one girl I was talking to, I was interacting with her, and I was asking her, how many brother do you have, sister? She's like, I have one brother and he's in jail. And that moment, the way she was saying it so openly, she was like, for me, I have only one brother. I cannot imagine him being in jail, and I'm they're just doing nothing for her. She had no choice. Her brother is in jail, and in that moment, I really looked up to her, and I had tears in my eyes. I was like, look how strong this, our Rohingya young sisters and brother are. So that's a moment that I actually remember, and it will always forever stay with me. Now I'm seeing the screen where the Aceh people community in Indonesia, how they're helping our community, our people coming from the boat and with their no food, no water, and how they're helping us without even seeing their race or their anything. They're just helping them.
Together. It was honestly so beautiful, all of the Muslims coming together, and this was a great experience for all of us. Now we're gonna head over to have some meetings with a lot of people, a lot of groups. So it's a big day ahead of us, but we have faith that we'll get through it.
So what we've, right after the Aceh trip, when we came back to Jakarta, it was August 25th, and that was our commemoration of genocide, 6th anniversary. So in partnership with Aman Indonesia, we were able to sort of organize a small moment for us to sort of commemorate this moment of our people by going to join the Friday prayer to remember, everything that happened and to commemorate the victims and the survivors. After that, we went to a meeting that Aman Indonesia also kindly organized with big philanthropic organizations and advocacy-based organizations that also deal with human rights and humanitarian aid in Indonesia. And we were looking for specifically commitment to children's education.
I think we have had quite a bunch of positive impacts. The one thing is that we have built this bond between our Rohingya sisters and the trust and the relationship between us to even work closer together for the long term for our shared vision and mission together. As well, the impact on the CSOs and government entities and other stakeholders that we had meeting with. They want to do something for our children, for our communities, and for our men and women in the camp and beyond. We've got some verbal promises that a bunch of civil CSOs and organizations are willing to support and advocate for the education of our children, the Rohingya children from the camp. So this is amazing. Usually in the advocacy, to see the impact, it doesn't usually come immediately. So to me, this is very significant. It's like right away coming the impact. So it is very powerful. And I think it is powerful. I'm going to be biased because we are all the Rohingya sisters together, the women together, and we really believe in this together. We come from a place of passion, humility, and really wanting to do something for our community. So it is one of the most significant impact that I've ever seen in my time of advocacy. The immediate impact for the education for our children, and then the access to detention of the immediate family members of the communities from Aceh.
So when we were in camp, we gathered that most of the children were not receiving any formal education. So there's 80 children, but 10 children were able to go to school, but they were actually rejected recently due to several issues. But we've been lobbying and advocating for the education. So I think one achievement that we might have achieved is ensuring that these children are going to receive education through several organizations. So we are in the process of making that happen.
A lot of the meetings that I've gone to, there were many initiatives that I've witnessed, including like meetings where it's purely Rohingya women. We often didn't get anything much out of it because we didn't get the time to bond, the time to get to know each other on a deeper level. And I think we achieved that during this trip by going to Aceh, by going to listen and make sure that we remind ourselves on who we are and what do we want as a community.
Through my own personal experience in going to the refugee camp and seeing them with my own eyes, I learned how intense the situation is. So yeah, I would say that was the biggest thing that I learned.
I guess the beauty of this project was that we all had each other to lean on, and we all had each other to listen to.
I think it has improved a lot in a way that I think we now feel like as if we're siblings from the same mother. So it is challenging to find time to do a lot of fun stuff because we are on the advocacy trip. The first 2 days, I can tell you, we have been working from 7 a.m. until midnight. We're doing shopping, strategizing, and preparing all of this. So we don't have weekends, we don't have weekdays, we just walk, meeting. But in between, and then when we come back from the meeting, we do a little bit of debrief session together, and we talk about what is something that we appreciate about each other. By sharing those things, and I think it's even bring us closer.
Sometimes we cook together in the morning, we make sure everyone gets to eat, and then we have a debrief at night. Those moments really it will become extremely precious to us later on. It will be a manifestation of our love towards each other, And that's what we're here for. I think in the end, be it the community connection, going to the refugee camp, it's also our love letter to the people there, that we haven't forgot about them, and we will keep trying, and we will keep, continuing.
I think the most important part about doing this work is doing as much as you can. Going beyond, go out of your comfort zone, and don't be afraid to take risks.
Just my final reflection, Rohingya women have a lot to offer to the world. We are people that have faced discrimination, violence, displacement, but despite going through all these atrocities, we still care for our family, our community, and we also contribute to the communities that we live in now. So if you give us the platform, if you give us the opportunities, we will strive and we will do our best.
Now we're just like 5 group of girls. You never know, in the future we could be like 20, 30 of girls together.
Yeah, so I just want to request to the people who are watching this video, we only need a little tiny bit of your support to provide us access and resources. We are so capable of rebuilding our communities together, and we're so capable of fighting for our cause, and thank you.
I think it was full of love, and that is the best I could describe it. Full of love from the people in the camps, and reminders that we need to keep going, but also full of love that we created among ourselves.
Okay, we're gonna have a 10 minutes break before we start the discussion. So therefore, we also have time to arrange the space as well, and then we can catch up.
Me first. Oh, mashallah.
Okay, so welcome back to the discussion. Let's start with the round of introduction first. So next to me is Maìyafuìnor, poet, author, and the founder of Rohingya-led collective network. Hope I pronounce it correctly. I've been practicing for maybe few hours just to make sure that I pronounce it correctly. And then Anok from ASEAN Burma, who's the filmmaker of The Journey of Love and also film producer. And Noor, the director of Rohingya-led collective network. Should we start with just kind of general question, like how all this come together, this film, how it actually started? Any one of you can just answer this question. Let's just chill, no? Let's just make it casual.
You don't want to take it? Everyone is, can you hear me? Okay. Everyone's mic shy, but so how it started was, we saw the gap in the advocacy realm, especially among the Rohingya community. Two gaps. One is that there are a few Rohingya women who are out there doing the work in advocacy internationally, but I can count by hands, by one hand, how many. And we don't often get a space to actually come together or connect on a deeper level. And this sort of work relies more than just your professionalism or your ability to connect with those outside the community, but you need to actually deeply internalize who you are as a person belonging to this community, because our identity and our collective self is destroyed by genocide, by a lot of propaganda, by various different actors. And so when it comes to our connection to the community and how we would be able to envision our future, how we'd be able to do this work long term, it relies a lot on sisterhood. And building that relationship is not a day work. It's not something that could happen, just out of the blue. And so we need to foster a sort of an environment for that to happen. And I've been in this work for about 7 years. And that was that's the most striking problem that I encountered. And so I thought, and Debbie from RMCN had a lot of talk about convening women from the Rohingya community to come together to try to find solutions, and also just to relax and really talk about things that we would like to do for the community. But then I also added that, it's important for us not to forget, if we're coming from the diaspora group, that we don't actually forget who we come from and where we are currently. And so I really pushed for us to go to the camp in Aceh, because we thought, okay, Indonesia would be a good start. There's a strong civil society who works on, refugees, migrant, and various other human rights issues. They've had issues. They've had history of toppling over dictatorship, military dictatorship before, so they might have some level of understanding. And last year, they were chair of ASEAN, and we have a very regional outlook to the issues. And so we decided, okay, we will go to Aceh, we will go to Jakarta, we will try it out, we will see what it's like to actually convene a group of Rohingya women, both with experience and not so much experience. And I realized I want to bring in more women to actually be trained and know and learn what it's like, not just about what to do, what to say, or what the problems are, but actually how to convince people, how to persuade them, how to make sure that you're liked first. Because if you're not liked, no one really wants to actually listen to you. And so those are kind of like the original points of why this film came together. I really wish that a lot of the works in the past by women, by our community women, has not been erased. To the point that people question us all the time prior to this. Where are the Rohingya women? We don't see them. We don't hear about them. But they're hard at work in the community. They're hard at work trying to survive a genocide. They're hard at work trying to, glue the community back together. But we don't see them. So we want to make sure that our work is also not erased, that there is a documentation. And thankfully, Anok came in for the rescue. He's our K-drama director. And he like put it all out in a paper, got us to actually be oriented with it, and he really did a good job. I really have to give that to him. He doesn't like to be very he wants to be a little bit humble. So that's why I wrangle him to come today. But that's kind of the original points, and I really hope that you enjoyed the movie.
Okay. Okay, yeah, you can also answer the same question if you want to ask something.
No, I think that was covered really beautifully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I forget to introduce myself. I said I will introduce myself properly. Okay, you can just call me Mook because well, that's the name I actually go with. Basically, the Thai full name is long. I mean, Maìyafuìnor is super long basically. So we just go by nickname. I'm a human rights activist. Been working in Thailand and the region for too long, basically. Yeah, for a bit too long. Okay, let's come back to the film and the process and all that stuff. What are the challenges that you face when you try to film it, when you try to document it? Because I saw that you film it in the UNHCR camp. No, for sure, it's not easy. There might be some restrictions, and also during advocacy. So how you actually kind of address it, those challenges? Any of you can answer?
Producer.
So I'm not the producer. You guys are the producer. I'm just the ones like doing it. Yeah.
Someone has to reduce it. It's okay.
He did.
So first of all, I would like to thank Debbie, Yasmin, and rest of the group from the network to giving me this opportunity to be here and to make the video. I really did enjoy the whole process. I think for me personally, this project was different, not because I'm not getting paid, but because it was special, because I was able to visit a real-life Rohingya camp for the first time in my life, and then being able to capture the precious moment that you see on the film. It was, I think, it was a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And also, there was a lot of challenge because like we have to go to Aceh and then we have to film inside the UNHCR camp. And the issue is that we can't take all our equipments there. So I have to leave all my equipment, including my camera, everything. So I just filmed the entirety of the camp sessions with my phone. That's why the quality a little bit bad. But I think it was like manageable in the end because all the support and help from my Rohingya sister, it was a little bit easier for me because they were really collaborated, and then it was only one day there. I was like so nervous before because it would be disastrous if I couldn't if something went wrong. It's like there's like no returning there, and in the end it was a lot easier than what I thought, and I think it turns out fine. And yeah, I think it's probably just that there's not much things to mention. I think except from the stuff in the editing where it was originally a 40 minutes long video. Can you guys imagine watching this for 40 minutes? It's so boring. For me personally, but yeah, I mean, so with the help of my teams, everyone's try to cut it down, break it down into 23 minutes. Now we see today, and yeah, that was a process.
Are you saying that we're boring?
No. You guys are definitely exciting, but yeah.
Think of us talking.
Yeah, done. He said that actually he could memorize everything that we've said in the movie.
I could recite every single lines of the. Yeah.
How many hours do you spend in editing room, basically?
I think it's probably 3 or 4 weeks. I think
okay,
around.
Then you memorize everything.
Yeah, I watch it millions of times already. So that's not true. Yeah.
Okay.
What was a challenge for me in general? For the film, I was just thinking about that right now, and I think Arnab made our life so easy because I didn't realize what the challenges were for him until now. And he really briefed us every day on what was expected. In the morning, he would grab us and say, hey, like after breakfast, he would say, today I want to interview you, perhaps at this location, and these are some of the questions that I'm going to ask you. So we really appreciated that he briefed us beforehand instead of just coming to us and saying, hey, can I take a video of you now? And he well prepared us. So I'm sorry for all the difficulties you went through, but I think you did that to make our lives easier.
Okay. Interesting part is that advocacy part was also filmed. We usually don't see it actually on the screen. Like we know exactly, I mean, NGO work, what kind of the work we have done, maybe some kind of positive, negative results now with advocacy, but we barely see it on the screen, and people barely know what we actually doing. Like when we say advocacy, yeah, people just think that we take the stage in the UN and other stuff and what else. So this is very interesting. Like, why did you decide to film that part? And kind of what do you want out of it? Like having that part filmed.
So a big part of the core value of our organization, so it's Rohingya-Maìyafuìnor Collaborative Network. You did amazing, trust me. Everyone finds it difficult to say the word. I did a panel with Kate Blanchett and she couldn't even say it, and she's an actress. She's like a professional actress. And Maìyafuìnor just means women in our language, and that's part of our cultural preservation process, and to ensure that our language is there until the work is needed. So basically, the reason why we wanted to record the process was to showcase the work that Rohingya women are doing for community. It's barely seen. We've seen some incredible human rights diaspora Rohingya organization globally across Europe, United States. I myself, I'm based in Australia. We have a couple of Rohingya organizations, but the main one, you barely see any women leading the cause. Even if you Google it now, take your phone out and type in Burmese Rohingya Association Sydney, you look at images, if you find a photo of a woman, I will give you $100 baht. So it's rarely seen. So we've showcased this documentary in the United States now very recently. We did one, our first one was in Australia. We'll do Canada very soon in September. So we're using this as a tool for advocacy to showcase the impacts and to showcase what we can do for our own community. And to also, we have another 2 team members that are going to join us. And part of the work that we do is ensuring that young Rohingya girls understand that they can do the work. So they need to see Rohingya women doing the work. Like, I wish I had this when I was doing the work. I've been, Yasmin and I, we've been in this for quite a while, and we were thinking, wow, we wish we had this. We had to really do the work in a very difficult, very lonely, and many barriers, but now we have each other. It makes the work much more easier. And besides doing the work, we have a relationship of sisterhood. We're here for one another. Right now in Arakan, terrible things are happening to our people, and we lean on each other for these moments.
Okay, yeah, next to the question, because I saw the scene that is probably small details, but I really like it when you try to fix the makeup for each other. It's very like small details, but I mean, it really means something, no? It means, well, sisterhood or solidarity between women. So this is the question. Okay, you can also answer. What is sisterhood mean to you?
Wow, I love that question. It's really interesting because there are some common questions that we receive whenever we launch our screening. And some of the common questions are, you're all from different parts of the world. How did you find each other? And, the beauty of social media, and the non-beauty of social media as well, brought us all together. And, we've all faced similarities, like I said in the video, violence, displacement. We were all displaced in the ASEAN region. Yasmin was in Thailand, I was in Malaysia. But regardless of where we all ended up, we still found each other. So sisterhood for me, I guess, in terms of Rohingya sisterhood, it's that we're always here for one another, and that, you know, we do things together. We cook together. Yesterday we cooked Rohingya food. We can show you the photos later. And we actually plan to come back into Thailand in a few months to have a cultural day. Maybe Yasmin can add to that.
I hope that all of you will come to another screening that will be in the fort again. We're wrangling the fort to actually allow us to have that. It will be another documentary, and it will be produced by Anop again, not paid, but we'll pay with other things. We'll pay with food and, you know, and kindness and sisterhood. Something that won't have a material value, but something that will last a lifetime. I think that we are planning to have a little bit more of establishing, you know, kind of an understanding of who Rohingya are on a deeper level, on a human level. And so, as Aziza has said, she's such a master chef. Like, I've not seen a woman cook like that. And this is something that, you know, sometimes we look down on this when we are in feminist movement. Cooking is so important, and it's nutrition that the community needs, and she's so good at it. Like, in an hour, she just put out a feast of food. Anyway, coming back to you know, very important. I love food.
Okay. You talk a lot when we can try.
Yeah, exactly. August.
Try.
So the team will come back in August, close to the end of August, to try to do a little bit more of that outreach. And we're hoping to have another screening of a different movie. It will be on Malaysia this time, and the center theme is going to be on hate speech against Rohingya and how we've tried to combat it in different sort of platforms, obviously talking to our friends, but also trying to reach out to the public. And this is something that we're also trying to do, hopefully later on in August, when we come back as a team. So you will not just see the two of us, the boring faces, you'll see the younger faces, you know, more exciting energy. And those are the young women that we've trained and we've actually brought into this work. And they knew what to do right away. And so coming back to the question of sisterhood, I think within our community the ties have been savored so much through violence and campaigns to instill distrust and hate among each other. You see, hate campaigns, it's not just for those outside. Not just for those outside our communities, not just in ASEAN, not just in Bangladesh, but it's also instilled within the community to distrust one another. Because if you have resources, why don't I have it? It becomes a zero-sum game between diaspora, refugees. It becomes a zero-sum game between people who are here. If you work for the community, you're assumed automatically that you are well-funded, which is not always true. And so in this network, I wanted to really push for us to go beyond that boundaries of, you know, of distrust that was so deep-seated, and really get to know each other on a very, very personal level. And so that requires a level of trust in itself, right? But thank God for the opportunities that I've had, because I've met everybody in the network prior to asking them to make this step, to actually bringing them to Jakarta and Aceh. That was actually meeting them, I think I met you 2022, yeah, in Bangkok. And we instantly clicked, and I was like, I'm gonna try to make something happen for us to come together again. Yeah, we were so loud. People were like, please, can you quiet down? This is not a place. And then I've met the two young Noors in Milwaukee, and they were so shy, but at the same time I can see the fires in them. You know, sometimes you can vibe with people and you can see that they want to do the work, but they don't have the avenues, they don't have the channel to do that. And so I didn't have the resources to actually bring people together. It was RMCN that was like, okay, let's figure it out how we could do this. And it happened to be aligned with the ASEAN Sisterhood for Indonesia, and that kind of helped us to bring in the resources. And so we rely on not just ourselves as sisters, but we also rely on the sisterhood that we built along the way. And that means sharing resources, connecting with each other on a human level, understanding the cultural context and the historical precedents within our community and why we are distrustful of each other. But at the same time, let's move forward. And how do we move forward from there? By building more trust among each other.
Okay, yeah, let's hear from you as well, because basically, as a, can I say this way, a Burmese man working with the, no, not in a bad way, like you been supporting the Rohingya women human rights activists in the network, and also helping to make this film and make it happen. So how that actually helped you to kind of see things differently? I mean, and also the meaning of sisterhood as well.
Yeah, definitely. Because so it was my first time, not just being inside the camp, but also dealing with Rohingya people in like so close, walking so close to each other, and it was like very new experience for me, because I know there's a lot going on between Myanmar people and Rohingya people inside the country, but like it was like so eye-opening to see the Rohingya women who are really, really smart, beautiful, and they know what they are doing, and yeah, I mean, it was I was a little bit kind of like shy at first, because they're like I don't know, like I couldn't just like talk to them normally, but we get along pretty well like after that. And then yeah, about being showing the sisterhood on their film, it was quite challenging for me, because like at first, like even the girls, they don't know each other that well, so I have a quite trouble time filming it, and because they're just like a little bit stiff like to each other, but it gets a lot better. It gets a lot better, and then yeah, like the rest is I think it's on the videos. It's really, yeah. You wanna add?
Okay, thank you. Hope I didn't put it in the bad way.
Definitely got it.
Okay, so basically, because the situation still for Rohingya, I mean, as a whole, still in pretty bad, it's pretty terrible, I mean, all over the world. But the thing is, we see you, Maìyafuìnor collective network, trying to do something and put the light and the voice of Rohingya women. But what can we do? I mean, people from basically Thailand, for example, people from Southeast Asia, people from Asia, maybe from international community, but okay, let's just focus on basically Southeast Asia, for example. What can we do to help supporting your cause?
That's really interesting you said that, because I had a conversation with Yasmin earlier, and I was saying, wow, like in Thailand, I feel less anxious, because we were on mission in Malaysia quite recently, and the hate and xenophobia against Rohingya in Malaysia is so high, and you can feel it. You can feel it in, like when you're on the streets. Even I had a taxi driver. He said he hated Rohingya. I lied to him and I said I was Indian. So in Malaysia, the anxiety is really, really high, and in Thailand, I feel like people are more open and more supportive and willing to help. And I guess in some ways that you can help as advocates is to join us in August when we put it all together.
And then we have free food, free Rohingya food.
Yes, it's all included. I will cook, don't you worry. Please support us, help us, and I'm sure Yasmin can also add to this, because she's the mastermind of Thailand. This is her, you can't say her home because she was in hiding most of the time, but she's the one putting all the bits and pieces together for our Thailand mission.
I think that there are a lot of things that can be done, but one specific thing that I think would be really, really helpful is at least, in terms of supporting our work, there is a point. And this point, the reason why we went to Aceh, we went to KL, we went to Penang, we went to Jakarta, all of these are actually to create grounds for us to create more awareness and create more understanding and establishing mutual understanding among people across the region. Because all the time I've heard throughout my 7 years of advocacy, people from the OECD countries, the global north, oftentimes say, we defer the issues to ASEAN. But then at the same time, ASEAN has not only not robust human rights mechanism, they barely function. And we know that it barely functions because there's a full-fledged genocide and many more mass atrocity across the region. And the ASEAN leadership are still saying, well, we can't intervene. But why are we an association if we can't intervene with each other? We intervene in terms of economic prospect all the time. And that really goes on to highlight that ASEAN puts profits over people. And I think people are pretty fed up with it. The Rohingya issue is just one other issue, one more thing to add to a plethora of so many human rights violations and issues of exploitation among ASEAN community. And if the Rohingya are not protected, the people were so downtrodden, we don't want to erase the agency that we display here, because the people do hold a lot of agency and they try their best to change. Even right now on the ground where 200,000 people extra are internally displaced, they're helping each other. These are the people in my family who are trying to feed the 60 other families that are coming to seek shelter in our homes. That does not highlight the kind of cooperation that goes on. ASEAN supposedly is a people-centric association, but we haven't really displayed anything that showcased that if we're going to be indifferent to each other, right? The African Union, prior to this, had a non-interfering clause, which actually made it all the more possible for mass atrocity to happen across the region. South Africa said, we've adopted a new sort of framework, which is non-indifference. And I thought that was very, very revolutionary. So for us to actually get started to build towards anything that would look like change in this region is to actually hold Myanmar accountable, is to actually protect the most vulnerable among us. If we fail to protect the Rohingya, we can't protect anyone else. If the Rohingya are annihilated off the earth, which is unfortunately very likely, but we won't allow it from happening as long as we're here, with by the nails and teeth. We are going to try, but if we fail to protect Rohingya, who is the next target? All of us could be, the next target at any point in time, and so it's a matter of time. So I think raising their awareness and getting people to understand the Rohingya on a deeper level, on the most human level, on the most, nitty-gritty, on the very, very fundamental level, will help us get to a place where we could actually hold each other accountable. It's not just the government, it's us too that are complacent. It's us too that remain silent when a mass atrocity goes on. What happens to the oil and gas company that actually was Thai companies that were investing in Myanmar oil and gas company? It was the military oil and gas company. It seemingly has stopped, but again, we don't know the financial trails. It was also Malaysian oil and gas company that invested in the military oil and gas company. Singapore still sell arms and store assets of the military in its country, in its bank. So how are we people-centric if this is the kind of lack of accountability that we have? So I think at the end of the day, we want to build towards something, but we want to start at the most fundamental level where we could understand each other. Let's start with food. Let's start with culture. Let's start with what kind of language do we speak, or what history actually belongs to Rohingya? Do Rohingya belong to Burma, or do Rohingya belong to other countries? Like, those debates need to actually happen, but Rohingya needs to be able to frame it. So we look forward to your cooperation, and we really, really look forward to all of your help, because we really can't do this work alone. We will just be talking to like a wall. And the government won't listen to us, but they might listen to you.
You can also answer.
Do you want to answer? Yeah. Producer is tired.
Yeah, she covered it so beautifully.
Yeah. Very interesting, because I agree with you. I mean, if you keep talking to the government, maybe just like talking to the wall, but if their own people try pushing as well, it might have some positive changes. But yeah, not an easy work for sure. I mean, as you said, I mean, you feel a little bit more chill in Thailand, no, compared to Malaysia. Generally at the personal level, I think Thailand is a bit more open. But if you talk about, like for example, if you talk about it at policy level, like if you push the government to receive more Rohingya refugees and all that stuff, you're going to get a lot of pushbacks on that as well. So that is very interesting. So it comes to the next question, like we have to create better understanding at the deeper level between people, at least in Southeast Asia, in Asia, about Rohingya, but actually how? Anyone can answer.
We actually conducted sounds like a military operation. We organized a social harmony art competition recently in Aceh, and the point of the competition was to bring Rohingya and Achenese together and to showcase some of the commonalities that we have. So some of the artwork that we received were absolutely incredible, and it was so difficult to choose a winner. So we had 5 Rohingya winners and 3 Rohingya winners. How many Achenese winners? 5. And 5 Achenese winners. And we displayed this on our social media, and we're actually planning to bring these displays to Thailand when we come back. So we're making so many promises for when we come back. Hope we. Yeah. And these art competitions actually bring people together. And I've used this as part of my advocacy as well, during panels, during Zooms, and it's really, like, one artwork was created by a 9-year-old Indonesian person saying, we care about Rohingya. There were comics, and some of the artwork from Rohingya as well were really, really touching and really emotional. The young girl, she painted and created these images of her journey by boat from Bangladesh to Aceh and the losses that she had. So I guess one tool that we're using is art and artwork, and we're hoping to have these competitions and for it to be ongoing, not just a one-off. And we hope to also do it in other ASEAN regions.
Like I said, food, culture, things that are easy to talk about, I think would establish a lot. But I think we also need to talk about, like, difficult conversations. We are actively trying to engage other groups of women from Burma, and that's something that we can't promise, the success rate at all, because it can go whichever way it wants. But we are, like, trying to actually have some level of mutual understanding. We know that we at least can start with the women to establish some level of understanding, some truth establishing, some reconciliation, or at least a compromise that we can work together. But Rohingya are currently excluded from all aspects of political decision making in the resistance movement. There are so few Rohingya groups in the civil disobedience movement, also in the National Unity Consultative Council. Forget about the NUG. There's one deputy minister, but he also does not have power. So this is like an active issues that we're dealing with, but at the same time, women have even worse time trying to engage. And so we realize, okay, we are a group of people that basically said, you know what, screw this, we are going to go and try to create a space somewhere else. And the fact that you are all here today proves the point that there is a thirst, there is a hunger for the engagement with Rohingya women, to hear our stories, to also engage with us, to actually hold actors accountable. And I think that we have enough resources, or at least we will be able to pull resources together to create this. But in terms of how we create the social harmony, I think it would have to be a slow developing process. We don't claim that we know what we're doing, but we know somewhat of what might be successful. And even, I think this is important to highlight. Whenever I go to Malaysia, I come here, or I go to Indonesia. Usually Indonesia and Malaysia, it caught people off guard quite a bit. They would start speaking Malay or Bahasa to me because apparently I look like one of them, which speaks to the hate campaigns a lot. And I would say like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't speak your language. And they would, sometimes they would think like, oh, she's probably a foreigner, but someone from here, a little bit snobbish, trying to speak English. But then I said, no, I'm a Rohingya, and that, I think, I could see the process of their hate narratives almost crumbling. And that really tells us a lot, that people don't see Rohingya women as agents, as actors, as someone they can interact with or have conversation with. And so when we go to meetings in Jakarta, one of those meetings that you see after the mosque session, the women in those meetings were saying, are you sure you're all Rohingya? Like, you're all so pretty. And we're like, yeah, our women are really pretty. That's the selling point. I've had the same question asked. For example, I just got on a taxi. I was at a refugee summit in KL, and I got on a taxi to go to the airport to come back here. And the taxi driver tried to speak to me in Malay again. This happens like a million times already. I was like, okay, I know the drill. This is what I'm going to say. Let's engage. Let's try to break down the barriers. And he said, oh, you don't speak Malay. Where are you from? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, I'm actually a Rohingya. And he was like, wow, are you sure? Why are you light-skinned? And I'm like, yeah, there are so many different shades, just like how Malaysians are. And he said, wow, I'm so proud of you for actually saying it with pride that you're Rohingya. And I see that even those small conversations add up. He actually asked to take a picture with me, and I was like, okay, fine. He needs to send it to his wife to affirm that there's such a Rohingya woman in the world. And I was like, there's more where that's coming from. There's 5 more at least. So I think beyond dialogues, beyond direct conversation, we want to engage with all of you and your network and beyond to actually create the understanding. I wrote a children's book. I'm also a poet, but I also write in Thai. I actually speak Thai, but the event is in English. My apologies.
Actually, you speak Thai better than me, actually.
I don't think so. Thank you so much. That's very kind. But a little bit. So I think our next step is to ensure that the subtitle of the documentary and whatever engagements we have in the future also includes Thai, which is something that we need help. We need help with, if you can. And we'd love to engage with civil society here, because I think you have a very strong civil society, I think stronger than anyone in ASEAN, especially on these sort of reform of immigration law and migrant law. I think that would be really helpful to kind of push the story or push the sort of agenda up to become a little bit more visible. We don't want it to be a priority because then it gets securitized. We just want it to be up there, to be talked about, to be engaged by young people, to kind of move towards a progressive conversation. And that might help us to push further into the accountability realm. Thank you. That's a very long answer for you.
No. It's actually kind of comprehensive, but you can also add it as well because it's from different perspectives, basically.
Yeah, I agree with what Yasmin said, completely. Also, I think one of the reasons the Rohingya people are so alienated is because the illegal military junta is trying to make people disengage from the actual location. Like Rakhine, like we cannot go visit Rakhine like so easily, and people become so isolated there. We don't know each other that well. I think that's also one of the reasons that Rohingya people are too like stigmatized and being hate for no reason. I think the way that we can actually try to combat it is to one of the way I think is to create more materials that can amplify the voice of Rohingya people, so that people can actually know better to each other. And yeah, I think that would be one of the things we can do to actually remedify the situation. There's a lot of other factors at play, obviously, but that's my take on it. Thank you.
Okay. She already answered.
You want to hear my voice?
Okay, because
There's a favoritism going on. You seem to like her more than me.
because you already started difficult conversation, I will continue difficult conversation. It's very interesting to know in this ongoing revolution. Okay, you answer the way you can answer. In this ongoing revolution that is happening right now in Myanmar, like whatever way it's going to be unfold, where is the place for basically Rohingya and Rohingya women? Because you started, I'm sorry.
I can answer that. I don't know, actually. It's developing. It's so uncertain. The best way I can kind of think of it is probably us trying to force down the door, or force the wall to crumble. But that process requires more than just us. And I'm coming back to you all again, because it's, you know, when it comes to genocide and mass atrocity, it isn't something that is just between the perpetrators and the victims. It is the people who are bystanders as well who are responsible. We can't really absolve ourselves, and this includes me, because I live in a very privileged life in Canada after being resettled from here. And Noor probably agrees as well. We live in relative safety, and we can't really turn away from this mass atrocity that's in front of us by saying that, oh, it doesn't involve me, it's too far away, it's not important. Because the term genocide or the term mass atrocity or crimes against humanity, all of this implicates everyone around the world. If you allow it to happen, because there are so many early warning signs that you could stop, or if you allow it to exacerbate even further into completion of genocide or mass atrocity, then we're all complicit in the genocide, because we allow the perpetrators to travel around the world, get these weapons and bought it from many different actors. And these actors are actually countries like Thailand, many other countries in the West, China, Russia, so many more. And then we come here and we sit down and scratch our head and not knowing what to do. But then there are so many things that could have been done in the steps. Now, I'm not trying to say that, you know, the blame is all on us and we're all bad. I mean, there are good people who want to do good things, but I think the ongoing process of collaboration and cooperation needs to be strengthened for that to materialize into, okay, let's hold our own government or our regional government or whatever mechanism that's out there accountable, at the very least letting the public know that they have a voice in this, that this is their government's doing, or the business deal is almost being complete. I think the Tibetans do this really, really well. They go on to protest Xi Jinping and, you know, go to like protest in so many different places, and they're so visible. They're not doing this because they want to, you know, make such a noise and become nuisance, but they do this strategically so that they can actually bring in more media attention and raise the issue to, you know, to the visibility that they need in order to talk about what the solutions might be. So back to your question, I don't know how it would look like, but on our part, we will try our best to create a human resource for all of you to connect with, for all of us to work with. I promise to actually bring in as many women as possible into this network, and they can go on, build their own network or create other sort of organization. This is just going to be a transit network for them to learn everything that we have and take the resources wherever they need to go, and allow, not allow, but connect them to many other groups that they could potentially work with. At the same time, we are also going to try our very best to connect with other women of Burma, to create this sort of understanding away from all these politics of, oh, we can't upset the certain groups of, of armed forces, and this would not happen, that would not happen. There's no need for those politics for us, because we're nobody. At the end of the day, we're just a group of women trying to yell and scream for policy change. And so we're not threatening like that. And I think that would really help us to get into all of these discussions. Perhaps, if we gain enough momentum, we will get somewhere where we could make decisions for ourselves.
I think besides political support, public support is so important. I mean, just a few months ago, we had a boat in Aceh that was pushed back because of the hate by a group conducting this hate. But on the same day this boat was pushed away, 2 million Indonesians went and rallied for Gaza. So for me to see that, it was just a complete juxtaposition. I couldn't believe it, because there are already refugees in their country that are getting pushed, but when the refugees are kilometers and kilometers and kilometers away, it's very easy, right? So beyond political support, garnering the public support is so essential, which is why we're doing this work, showcasing our documentary, coming here and speaking, sharing our culture, our language, our food. So I guess to answer your question, I personally think public support will definitely see some change and some improvement for the Rohingya lives.
I just want to add one last thing. You think that you don't matter a lot of times in your work, because you work in isolation, and a lot of times we don't get to see the fruit of our labor. I'm assuming that a lot of people here are working in the civil society and pushing for different things, and even if you're in the public sector, it works the same way. But when the coup was, when the attempted coup was happening at the initial stage in 2021 February, you know how the Myanmar public has shifted its own narratives to say that they apologized to Rohingya and now they understand? It isn't just that there was an awareness. Of course there was. There was a shift in opinions and understanding, because they now know, hey, if the Rohingya if we fail to protect the Rohingya, it slowly comes to other people. And this is what we've been warning the international community all along. But again, who listened to women? But then, when we actually go to different actors, especially in the West, and we explain this to them, that the international pressure at some point worked. You know why it worked? Because the NUG actually changed their language. Instead of calling us Bengali, or calling us any other names that are derogatory, they've changed to calling us Rohingya. That is fundamentally very, very different from the policies that the NLD had. They had so many different exclusionary policies in ensuring that Rohingya don't have a place at the table, but this time it's different. And so I want us to understand that we are all actors in engaging and ensuring that we use this window of opportunity, the closing window of opportunity, to our benefits, in ensuring that eventually Rohingya get to go home. This is our fundamental hope. We get to go home, rebuild, and do whatever we need to do. If we could go tomorrow, we would. Really, we wouldn't stay in Canada. That's like a place of refuge, but we come from Arakan. We want to see it better. We have families there. We have our people there. We've been cut off from our roots, and we want to rebuild not just Arakan, but Myanmar for the better. But we need a place to do that. And so you constantly talking about Rohingya and bringing up our names in whatever conversation Burma comes up, it will help a lot. for people in the country or for people in the movement to understand, we can't really leave the Rohingya out of these conversations.
You can also answer.
No,
Okay.
nothing from me.
Okay. Okay. It's almost 1 hour, but it's very fruitful and interesting conversation. Like many aspects I haven't heard about before. Like for example, the last question I just asked you, I don't think people actually talk about the place of Rohingya and Rohingya women in this ongoing revolution. We know how it's going to unfold, everything all together. I mean, the revolution, and also how they're going to be inclusive with all the, let's say, ethnicities at the end of the day. But, well, I would say it's needed. But, okay, maybe one last question, because this conversation is almost actually 1 hour. Okay, time flies. Yes, almost 1 hour. No, it's not boring. We actually have.
I meant they're bored.
Oh.
We're okay.
Oh, we're all right, because we keep talking.
Yeah, we can talk all day.
So, yeah, it's probably kind of giving them, okay, it's now your turn to talk.
Yeah.
If you have any question, if you have any comment, because we keep going for, yes, actually almost 1 hour. Okay.
Hello. So, my question is, like, you actually mentioned about the.
Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Ravanan. So I'm actually a Tamil. I belong to one of the most, alienated people of Myanmar. So yeah, so I'm escaping war from Myanmar as well. So yeah. So my question is, like, you actually mentioned about the Rohingya genocide and the change of public mood after the 2021 coup. I will actually have to, I think I have a different opinion regarding that. Like, so I've actually been talking about the Rohingya genocide since 2017. So I actually felt that Myanmar felt, it was about the time I actually saw the light of the day, and I'm like, I think I was 16 or 17 back then. So I was actually starting to see things, see the world, and starting to understand things a little. And I actually saw under the governance of this thing called NLD, Myanmar actually had their darkest day. 2017 is the beginning of the darkest era. So I actually saw, in schools and in my very own schools and in my very universities and stuff, I see the government propaganda, like literally telling, like, not talk to people of this color. We are collectively called by this name called Kala, the K word, the derogatory term. So what happened is, like, they actually start pointing fingers and actually started excluding us away from the society. So when the genocide for the Rohingya people were going on, like, I was actually afraid, like, what if it happens to us again? Because you actually have seen, right, like, it is not the first time Myanmar hates the Indian people, right? They actually collectively call this actually dates back to Burma, the Burmese. So it's like 1920s and onwards. So what happened is, like, I actually thought after 2021, February coup, in the initial days, they didn't actually say that. They even started, you might know this person, I'm sorry to name that person, like, she's Panselo. She actually starts saying, like, have you seen the Rohingya people, how they cry?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So what happened is they changed the narrative just like that.
Yeah.
It was within 1 month. So after these words were coming out, they actually changed their mindset. It is not that the changes are actually happening in the fundamental stages. They are actually trying to tokenize the people. So that is I'm actually quite afraid of. So Rohingya people should not actually condemn and say that, okay, we actually have, like, some tokenization in the NUG government, but to even release a statement of condemnation against the May 17 and 18 massacres, which are actually going on and which coincidentally coincide with the Tamil genocide of the Sri Lanka 2009. So I was actually having a hard time even processing through these things, because the NUG is not even, attempting to release as honest and, a human rights, like,
They did a restatement.
Yeah, they actually exclude the Rohingya word, right? Like, in Burmese statement. So what's happening? I don't actually believe that the tokenization is going to work. We need more voices. We need to create a proper, alliance of all the minority races which are actually excluded from the mainstream politics for at least, I think since the independence time. So we actually have to come forward and put stronger force against this NUG government itself, because, like, we are lacking behind so much. So it actually raises lots of concern for me. So yeah, so I actually wanted to point out that thing. So we couldn't actually be, it is nice to have optimistic, yes, times are changing. We actually have at least some scope for political participation in this arena. But still, I honestly believe it is not enough. We need to act more and more and put a stronger opposition against the NUG government so that they would change and reform their things, right? So yes, that's the point I wanted to make. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your honesty, and I understand your frustration because we share that too. But you know, there is a very, very, I'm quite angry on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, I am always angry. But I also try to be funny because if I'm just coming off angry, nobody will actually listen to me anymore. There'll be a lot of unfollowing. There's no place for Rohingya women to actually be angry in this work. So we've trained ourselves so well to be very calm and collected and cool as a cucumber wherever we are, even if we're being racist, people are being racist to us in our face, which happens all the time. And I don't know how it was inside the country. I could only imagine that it's so bad. But I do agree to your point that, you know, the minorities or the groups of people that have been marginalized and made so vulnerable needs to really band together. I think there's so little of that being done because we're so scrambling just to try to survive as a community. There's so much loss of beauty among ourselves to actually share who we are and what kind of collective communities we come from. The NUG is not a flawless entity because it's made of Burma-centric, you know, leadership, male leadership. I'm so sorry for the men in the room. This is kind of your fault, but not really. I'm joking. You cannot, you know, be more Burma men than the ones in the leadership. But I do think that at the very least, you know, let's not talk about sincerity because that we cannot really measure. At the very least, the pressure that comes from outside or comes from, you know, the region really worked because it shook them to the point that they want to change the language. You know that the language cannot be changed very easily in our country, right? And that's a start for us to go further. It's an entry point for us to actually go and talk to, you know, other groups of people in the movement who might be a little bit undecided. I don't claim to know how to do, you know, the work of changing ideology, but I think that, for example, like in Thailand, the ideology has shifted. I was talking to PA earlier, and she said that, you know, Thailand has a problem of ideology that's already shifted towards more progressive, more democratic, more moral society, but the structure hasn't changed. But for us, the structures are changing, ideology hasn't. And so for us, we need to actually shift the narratives within, and that work needs to come from our cooperation. We cannot rely on any government, really. Even if it's a progressive one, they will wind up making mistakes. But it's for us to actually be able to tell them not to make those mistakes, and we need to be their checks and balance. And so that is my point to the sort of narrative change that took place. You know, post-attempted coup in February. It was very important that they saw the strategy, even though it's not really a strategy of Rohingya to cry and just beg, but it's the reality on the ground. But they saw that, you know, perhaps the Rohingya know a little bit more about how to do international advocacy, which we claim to be doing a lot better because we've gotten a lot of mechanism moving. But the thing is, if they've changed the language, if they've changed the way that they interact with the international actors, then that means that they are capable of changing, right? Even if it's not sincere, we can try to work on that later on. It's not to say that our pain does not matter, but for now, for the people on the ground, for the people who are currently suffering, we need to kind of suck it up and actually try to push further. If they've used the language properly, if they've started to acknowledge different things about the Tamil community, let's push further. Let's see how far we could push. And this is what happened with the statement currently that just came out that did not acknowledge how the Arakan army or the Rakhine army, I don't want to use the Arakan army as a term anymore because they're actually not representative of the rest of the Arakan state. Because we are also, you know, from Arakan, and Rohingya are very much rooted and indigenous to the region. So when this group actually is not condemned by the government, we say, why? Why would you actually leave this part out? when they're also actors of violence. And I asked the question, I retweeted a bunch of times. Again, I'm very angry on Twitter. And I, you know, it's an entertainment value for those who want to watch. And then, you know, I wouldn't say that it just came from me. It probably came from a lot of actors on the outside, and they issue a different statement, which is not a really good look for a government, but they are willing to change, see? So it means that the pressure works.
More question? Okay. Okay, introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Nathapop. I am a Thai journalist from Hard Story. I have two questions. First question, I want to know, as a Rohingya woman, when you go out into the active, what do you get some feedback from your community, like a Rohingya community? What are they thinking, especially with the man? They agree or no, like some effect? And second question, I would like to ask any Myanmar people, Burma people in this room. I think after the coup, do you think Myanmar people, they change their mind when they look at Rohingya people or not? Because I think even before coup, Rohingya people get effect already. How about after coup? They understand more on what they're thinking about Rohingya people.
Maybe the second question we'll direct it to Anop, because he's our honorary Burmese person. But I think that to your first question, thank you for asking that. There are a mixed reaction, and I wouldn't say that the men actually prevent us from doing the work altogether. I do know that the structure is not made of us, made for the Rohingya community in general to represent themselves. It's so hard, even for the men to actually come out and represent themselves and try to do the work. Rohingya here 10 years ago would face reprisal. They would need a permit from the governors or from the district to actually move beyond the district, right? So these are already barriers. Even within Burma, Myanmar, like political parties that are registered as, you know, sort of even ethnic or Rohingya would actually be excluded from a lot of the local elections or, you know, federal elections. And so these are barriers already that actually push Rohingya to kind of not be able to represent themselves. On top of that, we had years and years and years of military violence, especially sexual and gender-based violence, that kept women and girls closer and closer to home. Because these are just the tendency, because the military would go and target women first. And that's sort of why these barriers exist. It's not that our community is so patriarchal to no end. There was a point in time where women used to wear like big jewelries, and these are my research with, you know, people from the camps, where they actually gave me the heirloom from like prior to, you know, the independence, where women used to wear like a gigantic buckle of silver and gold, and they would wear it around their waist, and they would wear bangles and things like that outside the house. It's an expression of their, you know, of their art, of their love for jewelries and adornment. And these are actually telling us a story that we've never heard, that Rohingya women were actually visible. And not just visible in the, you know, burqa or like in the cloak, which nothing wrong with it, but it becomes a protection mechanism in the camps or elsewhere, because they are not identifiable and then not susceptible to rape. That's at least the kind of struggle that they have to go through. But now, coming into the work, Aziza gets a lot of rap for not wearing hijab, which is, you know, again, not anyone's business. It's her relationship to her God. Yeah, we have to laugh it off. But then at the same time, like, even though I'm wearing a hijab, I'm not, you know, I sometimes get called like I'm not a proper Muslim, or, you know, why are you talking so much? You should shut up, things like that. But then we've developed a strategy. So I think we were talking earlier with PA as well about how we actually approach, you know, the male leadership or men in our community, especially the uncles. We just, you know, we listen and we learn from the kind of perspective that they have. Because again, we come in from the acknowledgement that, from a platform or from the understanding that we wouldn't be here being able to talk in this panel without them doing the grunt work in Thailand and elsewhere. So we can't really erase or write them off as like, these are just old men talking, right? Even if they were male-centric and they didn't understand us, we also cannot go and just erase the work of the Rohingya people or the Rohingya men, because that's how we end up here and that's how the world knows about us. So I think coming from a humility and understanding that our elders also play a role in all of our struggles, whatever mistakes we think they made, they've done it, thinking that that was the right choice or the right solution. So I think we're so non-threatening and just doing our own thing most of the time that nobody cares. We do get occasional question like, why don't you have men on your board or like in your organization? And we said, we're women-led. I'm sorry. That's it. That's it? Okay.
Beautiful.
Yes, actually, the second question.
Thanks for your question. So I would say I would say it definitely changed the how people, I mean the general population see the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar after the coup, because people became more aware of their political situations after the coup, obviously, and then people are more, I would say, sympathize with the Rohingya, their sufferings and the situations out there, because they become oppressed as well. I mean, before all that, there's a lot of Burma people who are working for Rohingya situations. But like I said before, the general populations have become more aware of the situations after the coup. Definitely.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I just want to add something really, really quick. So I studied at the University of Sydney from 2015, my undergrad and my postgrad. So in 2015, I went to uni, and at our university we have like different country representatives that do food stalls and share their culture. And there was a Burmese stall. And I went there and I thought I'll just introduce myself and say hi to all the Burmese students. And I went there and they said, hi, like, where are you from? I said, oh, I'm from Burma, I'm a Rohingya. And they all looked at me as if I was like a ghost. And at that point, I realized and I knew they didn't see me as someone that belonged to Burma, Myanmar. Now, about 3 months ago, the exact same society organized a panel. And the professor that's behind this, she's the one that told me this after the panel. She said, when we were organizing this panel, I asked them, who do you want to be on this very important panel to speak about the democracy of Burma, Myanmar, and what we hope to see? And the first thing they all said, we want Noor Aziza. And she said, I'm not even making this up, I'm not lying. They said, we need Noor Aziza, she's a Rohingya activist, she's based here, it's very important. So things are changing. On the panel, it was me, it was the NUG rep for Burma based in Australia, and it was Dr. Susan Banki. Some of you might know her, she works on Burma, Myanmar issues for the last 30 years. So, and after I spoke at the panel, it was mainly Burma people in the audience. There was no Rohingya. After the panel, a majority of the students came to me and apologized to me and said, we are very sorry for not speaking up for your people, and we truly mean that. So yeah, so that's been my experience in terms of solidarity, and I mean, we still have people that think we don't belong there. I mean, Yasmin's been arguing with a few people from Rakhine that say that we are not indigenous. But it's really entertaining. You should definitely go and see her Twitter page.
I'm sarcastic.
Yeah.
I just want to add one thing, that last year we were at an event. I'm not going to name it just because we were not very happy with the way that it was organized. But in that event, we got to really, really connect with Karen women. And fortunately, so far in all of my years in advocacy, the Karen people have been our most trusted ally. And it seems so unlikely. I think some of you might think that, oh, how did that happen? We've actually created a space for Karen people in Canada to come with us to testify at the Parliament. That happened about 6 years ago. And we got this young Karen man to come. He was leading KLCC Karen. Oh my gosh, I forgot the full name. I'll let you know. But basically, they are like a fundamental, very, very important Karen organization in Canada. And he was, the subcommittee on human rights was trying to investigate on the Rohingya. But we made sure to create a space because we knew that, you know, this was not going to highlight anything about Karen if he was not there. And these policymakers, they don't know anything. They actually get fed a lot of information. Sometimes it's not the correct information. So that was the beginning of our like allyship. And wherever we go, wherever I go to speak, there was a protest, a few protests actually with the Karen community that they organized. And every single word, like after every single sentence I say, they would be like, yeah, whoa. And that speaks so much to the young people wanting to hear so much more from Rohingya. And like, I just felt so loved by the Karen community. There were so many more where like, there were instances where women just came to me, women from other ethnic groups just came to me and hugged me and said, you did so well in a panel somewhere. And then, you know, these are some things that we kind of undermine from time to time. But then there was a point in time where that event that I am not going to name, we got to actually interact with Karen women on a very, very deep level. And like all of them came to us and said, I'm so sorry, with tears in their eyes, and said that we had allowed this to happen. They were busy fighting in their own territory. They were trying to survive themselves. But this is the kind of fundamental understanding we need to establish. And so we're going to engage as much as possible with other women's groups. And I think that we'd go somewhere with the interaction. At the very least, not here.
I think we have time for maybe one last question. Okay.
Good evening. Actually, this is not a question. I just wanted to reflect something about our brother asked 2 questions. I think the first question is related to gender issue. Actually, we Muslim majority, I am a Rohingya lady. So we Rohingya females are really facing discrimination for gender, actually. Not, I just said some days ago, I told to teacher Ampon that we female, being Rohingya, at home, the males discriminate us. You know, the husband, the daughter, even the son, discriminate the mother. Okay, and moreover, okay, if we come out a bit from house, the community discriminate us. And if we come out from the community, the country discriminate us. You know, so it is very rare space for us. We have to create our own space. So in this case, I have been in humanitarian career like about 12 years old. So I have found out that this is the fact that we need to create our own space. This is the time we have to help ourselves. Because, you know, we all know this saying that if opportunity is not coming to us, we have to go and create the opportunity. So this is one point I would like to reflect. And today I'm so happy that I saw our sisters. And I was really amazed that when they start talking about the advocacy, I was like, yes, this is what I need. This is what I wanted to taste. So I'm really grateful about that. And one more thing, if you ask me that I just come out from the country like 9 months ago, if you ask me that if I were able to introduce myself as a Rohingya, let me answer from inside of country point of view. Cannot. Very difficult. Forget about the outside community, even in NGO sectors, which every blessing they talk about human rights, gender rights, whatever they say. Still, I cannot, even in any event or any, like mostly events are like full with educated people, right? Still, it is difficult for them that to accept, if I say, I am Sadiq, I am a Rohingya. No, difficult. Instead, I have to say, I'm a Muslim from Rakhine. this is very bitter taste. But I really want to introduce, I hope that will be one day, there will be one day I can introduce myself. I am a female from Rohingya. I am from Rohingya society. I really wish to have that. Thank you very much.
Okay, that is the probably best way to wrap the session, basically. Or you just said that everyone, should have the right to introduce themselves the way they want. That I'm a Rohingya woman, that I have the place in this world, that I have the place in revolution, that I have the place wherever I want to introduce myself this way. Super beautiful way to wrap up everything that we talk about. Thank you. And yeah, I think it's been 2 hours since we started, so I think it's time to wrap up. So please give big round of applause to Noor, to Anop, to Yasmin, to the Ford, to ASEAN Burma, and to Rohingya-led Collective Network. Yes, thank you. And thank you. Yes.
Please have some food. Yes, please have some food.
Oh, okay.
I'm speaking Thai. I'm so sorry. Don't move.
Okay, and thank you everyone for your full attention. Okay. Okay, ค่ะประชาสัมพันธ์
Hi everyone, I'm Zoom with 45 Rights and the Fort. Just want to tell you that we also have interesting events here at the Fort. Tomorrow there will be another film screening on LGBTI families. So they will tell a story of 3 LGBTI individuals from 3 countries. And then next week, next Sunday, we're celebrating Pride here. There will be a interesting panel discussion on queer theater artists. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the queer theater artists in Thailand, but we will invite the legends and the upcoming, all the queens will be here. So if you are interested, yeah, please join us. And yeah, thank you. I think now I would like to have the group photo now.
Everyone who can be on camera, if you want to just move forward.
Isn't it just
Or do
easier
you
for
wanna-
us to move there?
Yeah.